guys, I'm Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do my July wrap up. I managed to read 5 books during the month of July, and all of these books were read during readathons. I will link both experiences down below because I vlogged both of those readathons and I talked about all of these books in those vlogs. But today I'm going to give you a concise wrap up of my thoughts and my experiences with these books. First book I managed to read was one I actually started reading in June, and it was for the Tome Topple readathon. And the goal for the Tome Topple readathon is to read books over 500 pages. I managed to read The Nightingale by Kristin. This is a historical fiction book, adult, and it is set during World War II. It's a book about 2 sisters during the war and their experiences with this war. I've heard a lot of good things about this book, but in the end I didn't really end up liking it. I read another World War II story before this and I liked that one so much more. This one was just not the right book for me, and I think it might have been because I read a much better book right before it, but in the end I didn't really like this one, and I might have liked it more if I didn't read the book before it, but I did, and that's just the truth of it, honestly. And I don't think I am going to read anything else by Kristin because I wasn't particularly fond of her writing style either. I didn't really get the bond between the 2 sisters. People were really raving about this book because of the bond between the sisters, but they barely saw each other throughout the book. They were living their own separate lives, they were having their own separate plot lines, and there was no real relationship in there. There was also a huge case of insta-love, which I didn't like. Didn't see a lot of it during the story, but they fell in love in the beginning and then at the end they came together, and you know they're going to come together because it's so super predictable. I just wasn't for it, and that's just my experience with this book. And I read 2 manga bind-ups with my boyfriend. They were Orange Volume 1 and Volume 2. Orange is about a girl called Nao who receives a letter from herself in the future, and in that letter she writes that she has to protect this new exchange student because he is fated to die. First doesn't believe this letter, but then decides that she should believe the letters because everything she predicted in the letters actually came true, and she set out on this quest to protect the guy and change the events that lead up to his death. And I thought this was very interesting. I rated 3 and 4 stars. I really like this manga, but it should have more of an emotional impact, and it didn't really do what I thought it would do for me. I thought I would cry. I didn't really. At some point I did feel some kind of emotion, but it wasn't a lot. I thought it would move me a lot more because of the premise. It is a very tragic premise, but in the end it didn't really, and that's kind of sad, but I still enjoyed these bind-ups, so I am very glad about that. I finished this manga duology, and that's also a good thing. The next readathon I managed to participate in was the Booktube-A-Thon. I read 2 of the 7 books I managed to read for this readathon in July, and I will talk about both of those books right now. The first book is Foxlowe by Eleanor Wasserberg. This is a book about a cult. The whole book takes place in this cult, and the main character called Green, she gets a sister called Blue, and Blue doesn't understand that she can't go outside of this cult. The cult believes that there is some sort of bad outside of their environment, and when they walk outside of it, they will kind of get cursed in some way, and Blue doesn't understand and always goes off on her own and talks to strangers who aren't in the cult, and that is not the purpose of this cult. She always gets punished for it, and Green tries to change Blue in some way, but most of this book is about Blue and her experiences and what happens to her, and Green coming to terms with that. You also go to the present day, I guess, or into the future, and you see this old lady, and you figure out who this old lady is within this cult, because obviously she's linked to someone in the cult. And it is very interesting to see what happened to this cult, what happened to the people in it, and what goes on in the cult, because the whole premise of the cult was what lured me into this book. And in the end I rated 3 stars. I thought it was average. I don't know what I expected, to be honest, but I expected more dark times. The first scene in this book is so dark, and I really expected that to set the tone for the rest of the book. But the book just never got that dark anymore, and at first I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can read this, because it was kind of triggering, but the rest of the book doesn't match up to that. And I am glad that it wasn't triggering, obviously, but I also just expected more dark moments, and I just didn't get that. It just didn't go as dark as I wanted it to go, and I just thought it was average. I did enjoy this book, but I just expected more from it. Then the last book I managed to read was Girl Made of Stars, which is a book I was looking forward to so much. And I guess I did get what I wanted, but I also didn't really. Girl Made of Stars about this girl, and her twin brother gets accused of rape by one of her best friends. So she is struggling with the problem of, my brother would never do that, and my best friend also wouldn't lie about that. So she's really in the middle of all of this. I liked how it was set because you weren't really sure if it actually happened or not, because obviously her brother said it didn't happen and her best friend says it does happen, and you're really weighing the options like, did he actually do it, did he not actually do it? And you go through this book right along with the main character, figuring out whether her brother raped her best friend or whether he didn't. I thought that was a very interesting experience to see, but having said that, I didn't really like the main character, to be honest. I thought she was very naive at some points, and that was kind of annoying. Also, the whole family that she's in was very accommodating towards her brother. I don't really like that. You never get any real closure, and that's the most annoying part of this, that in the end, that doesn't get really neatly wrapped up with a bow, and that's really annoying to me, to be honest. I guess it's also realistic the way it ended, but I needed some more closure, and I just didn't get that. I really wanted to see the whole fallout with the parents, and we didn't. We just didn't get enough of that, and it's really sad. We did get a lot of her best friend's emotions and how she was feeling about things, and her brother at some point, and the main character also had her own relationship with like her ex-girlfriend and this new guy. Well, it wasn't really a new guy, but more like a childhood friend of her brother that she suddenly really connected with, and it was all very interesting to see. But it definitely wasn't the 5-star read I expected it to be, and that is also kind of sad, but also kind of predictable, because I have only had like one 4.5 star 5-star read on Goodreads and nothing else, so I don't know why I put my expectations that high, because every single book disappoints me that way. But yeah, that's just how it is. It wasn't what I expected it to be, which is kind of a common theme in this wrap-up, I noticed. But yeah, that's kind of a common theme all around with books nowadays with me. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting, and that is that, I guess. That was my wrap-up for this month. Let me know down below whether you read any of these books or what did you read in July. I would love to know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!